Michael Myers is one of the most, if not the most iconic character in horror media, and his inclusion in Dead by Daylight is regarded by many to be the reason why the game grew so much and became so popular. But sadly, his prestige ends on his background, as gameplay-wise, Myers is ranked by many content creators to be one of the weakest characters in the game. It's kinda funny to think that two of the most iconic killers, the poster boy of their own universe, are the weakest characters in Dead by Daylight. But here is a curious case about Myers. Out of all the classic killers, Myers is the only character that didn't get any reworks whatsoever to his power, and even his add-ons besides some number tweaking and rarity changes. Compare this to any other characters, like the Huntress, who got an add-on rework, the Hag, who got a more modernized power, or the Doctor, who got a major rework. And it's clear that Michael Myers desperately needs some changes. But this is not to say that his power is bad. Unlike Freddy or Sadako, I think the concept of Myers' power is really good. In fact, I would like to give huge props to the developers because the power they created for Myers is, in my opinion, one of the best character adaptations out of all licenses we have, and it was made back in 2016 when the devs had less experience than they have now. Back when the game was still new, we only had the Trapper, Wraith and Hillbilly to work with, and later Nurse was added. All of those killers are aggressive, and even if they had a different power, they all kinda fell into the same archetype. The game was not as horrific as the Steam tag suggested, and it was more like an action tag game. And then we had Michael Myers, a killer that didn't want to chase you the moment they found you. Instead, they just stand there, looking at you. Suddenly, out of nowhere, they end up attacking you, stronger than ever. And this was exactly how it was in the movies. Myers started the movies very passively, slowly stalking Laurie Strode through various scenes of the film, and only then attacking by almost the end of it. This was a completely new experience for many players that made us paranoid, as we had to constantly check our surroundings in order to find Michael Myers. In fact, if you check all the tier lists, Michael Myers was considered a B and even A tier killer. He brought paranoia back into the game, and nowadays, due to so many game indicators, the maps being more open and bright, and the average player being better, this paranoia is gone. Michael was also the first character to have a custom chase music, which made him so much more unique compared to the rest of characters, and it was something that later would become the norm. But that's about it for Myers, because nowadays it's very evident that his power is very outdated, and it contains a lot of huge flaws. Let's explain these flaws in detail to understand why he sucks and why he needs a change. Michael's first problem is that his early game is terrible. Myers doesn't have the fast mobility of killers like the Blight, Nurse or Spirit, nor the map pressure of killers like Cenobite or Artist. In fact, Myers has the worst early game out of all killers in the cast, even the Trapper. This is because of his Evil Within tier 1, which makes him the second slowest killer in the game, and also for some reason, it removes the launch attack to be extremely short, forcing you to come very close to survivors in order to get a hit. It's for that reason that many players do not want to stay in this tier and they want to leave as soon as possible by stalking survivors. Pair Myers with an open and giant map, and you have a very big problem if you don't have corrupt intervention. Currently, Evil Within tier 1 doesn't feel like a part of the power, it feels like a punishment. The second problem Myers has is his stalking mechanics. The way it works is a mess. Just take a look at this graph from the DbD wiki that details how the stack points work based on distance. For those that are not math teachers, in short, the closer you are to the survivors, the faster you will stalk, which thematically makes no sense. In the movies, Myers always stalks from mid to far away, as the point of stalking is to not reveal your presence a lot and be able to hide when spotted. The game should reward you from watching survivors from afar instead of just brainlessly coming close to them. Another stalking problem is the way the stalk points work, and it's coded in a weird way. To explain it in the simplest way, there are a total of 40 stalk points in the match, 10 for each survivor, and you need 5 stack points to tier up. This leads to you being able to fully stalk a single survivor and then unleash your tier 3 on another one that is punished by the mistake of that one oblivious survivor. And also, you as a killer might not be able to trigger Evil Within in a future chase because you run out of stock points. Not only that, it is entirely possible to run out of your power in a match, as you can only trigger Evil Within 7 times total. But in all my hours playing this game, this has never happened to me. One thing I'll give the devs is that I love, and I think, the fact you cannot body block survivors while stalking is very smart, and it prevents a lot of abuse. But let's talk about tier 3 now, and let's compare him to the other 4 characters that have powers you have to build up. Plague either has all survivors infected, or she gets one of the strongest powers in the entire game. Oni gets insane mobility, the ability to break pallets with his basic, and the power to flick and make a lot of loops unusable. Dredge gets the fastest teleport ability in the entire game, allowing them to travel the map with barely any cooldown. All of this passively. And Nemesis gets the best pallet breaking power in the game, as well as extra movement speed and attack range while using the whip permanently. And now for the iconic slasher, Michael Myers, who can only trigger his power 7 times per match and can run out of stock points per survivor, gets to insta-down survivors, extra lunge, and he can vault windows faster. Pre-drop a pallet against him and he has to play like an M1 killer with coup de grace. He doesn't get any faster, break pallets faster, or get stunned less in this mode, which in the past many players actually believed he did. The singularity while overclocked is just a better version of tier 3, except it has no insta-down. In fact, when compared with the Oni, I feel like Myers is a direct downgrade. Everything Myers can do, the Oni does better. He can constantly get his power, he gets insane mobility, and he even stops his power the moment Oni picks up a survivor. With Myers, you either slug survivors or waste a huge amount of your tier 3 while you are in the process of hooking a survivor, which makes one of his best tactics to be literally camping a survivor and pop the tier 3 once someone saves. Then his last problem, and for many players it's his biggest problem and I agree, is that his add-on design is outdated and the difference between an add-onless Myers and one with add-ons is so severe that I would go as far as to rate Myers from D to bottom A tier simply because he has one of the most busted add-ons in the game, the Tombstone piece, which allows you to straight up delete a survivor of the match, and the worst part is that they will not be able to counter it because there is no warning whatsoever if Myers is using that add-on or not unless it's too late. Basically, an entire busted game mechanic is locked behind an add-on. To be fair, for how old Myers is, I like that his add-ons have some kind of variety, as there are 3 different Myers builds you can do: Infinite Tier 3, Jumpscare Myers, a favorite one, and Tombstone Myers. All 3 of them play in a different way. The problem is that the community tends to forget that the rest of his add-ons are absolute trash, with some add-ons being basically unusable, like the Stalking movement speed add-ons, which nobody uses, and there are 3 of them, or the fact that so many of his add-ons are just increased tiers of old effects instead of being new cool effects, like for the Ghostface for example. The duration add-ons are even poorly balanced, as the yellow one is a direct downgrade of the green duration add-on, and the purple one is not as worth as the green one. And don't get me started on the glass fragment add-on, which I fully believe is the worst add-on they have ever designed because it's absolute f***ing dog shit. His add-ons need a significant rework. It took me so long in order to explain why Michael Myers is regarded as one of the weakest killers in the game, and I think it's pretty clear now to see why that is. But let's offer something more productive now. Let's try and fix Michael and make him stand out from the rest of the cast. Now remember that this is purely for fun and entertainment, and I am in no way a game designer. My rework idea could potentially have huge flaws on it, and I would appreciate if you could leave your feedback in the comment section, as well as any suggestions you would personally add. And while you're at it, I would also appreciate a like just to spread this video to the algorithm. Thank you! So before I begin with the fixes I would make, I want to add 2 features to Myers in order to make him way better to play as. The secondary button feature, which was introduced with the Hag, who was the next character to be added after Myers. Now, anytime you want to tier up, you will have to press the button to activate it, instead of it being automatically done for you, so you no longer activate it by accident. And that's not all, as with the same button, you will be able to go from tier 2 to tier 1 when you hold it, similar to how the clown can press the power in order to change the bottles or hold it to reload it. But you might be wondering, why would you want to tier down? Well, simple. Let's make tier 1 an actual power instead of being a detriment. First of all, remove that weird lunge attack penalty. It makes no sense. Second of all, let's increase the speed of Myers from 4.2 meters per second to 4.4, just like Chucky or the Huntress. I think the reason the devs gave him such a slow speed is because they thought a true undetectable killer would be too strong, as survivors would have no heads up that Myers is coming. But nowadays, we have various true stealth killers that move at full speed, like the Ghostface and the Skull Merchant, and various perks give the same effect. The reason why he is not base speed is because Ghostface and Skull Merchant have their undetectable a limited amount of time, whereas Myers will have undetectable on command. Besides, since you can go to tier 2, I see no problem with the slower speed. Now let's talk about stalking, and first and foremost, I think removing the range penalties from this power is fair. Ghostface can stalk you from afar and you have to ready up for when he is close, so why can't Myers, the signature stalker, do the same? It makes no thematic sense. With Myers being able to stalk from afar, you don't need to move around the maps as much, so the slower speed on tier 1 is not that punishing, and in fact, the open maps actually help Myers now, and in those rare cases where you can stalk from weird places, you will feel like a true stalker just like Myers does in the movies, so survivors will have to pay extreme attention in order to see you stalking them. I see this as an absolute win. With this new mechanic, you will be able to enter tier 2 to walk around the map and chase survivors normally, and when you want to ambush someone, go back into tier 1 to hit them unexpectedly or stalk them from afar. You will also be able to go from completely undetectable to tier 3, which is something that Ghostface can mechanically do already, so I don't see it as a balance problem. And what about the stalking limit? Well, truth be told, I find this to be a harder thing to balance. This is by far the biggest change he will receive, so let me explain. In short, the stalking limit is removed. Now, you are able to stalk survivors for as much as you want. However, any survivors that have AFK crows will not give you any stalk points. Also, any survivors directly looking at you will still give you stalk points, only you will gain them at a slower rate. This is to incentivize Myers to hide around and stalk from afar instead of stalking while in a chase, but still allowing Myers to stalk when you need, in case you need a little bit in order to get tier 3. Again, this way you're playing in a similar way to Ghostface, only you are the one becoming stronger instead of survivors becoming individually weaker. However, And this is very important, survivors can still have their aura change when you stalk them a lot. And by a lot, I mean like a lot. So, if you're constantly just stalking one survivor in the match, they will still have the red aura around them. But now, you are not punished in future chases, as you can still get the tier 3 no matter who you're chasing and stalking. This red aura will also passively deplete in a slow manner while that survivor is hooked. So what purpose does this mechanic serve? Well, let's think about one problem that a lot of survivors have when playing against MintSkull, and that's the fact that one survivor might feed Myers a lot, and then Myers would be able to just plop tier 3 in front of you and you as a player didn't do anything wrong. So you get punished because another survivor made a misplay. And while technically speaking this is not limited to Myers only, I feel like this is extremely punishing on Michael Myers because he also potentially has the Tombstone piece, which can delete you from the match instantly, which is another problem itself. So why not tackle both problems at the same time? And why not make the Tombstone mechanic a part of the base kit for Michael Myers, just like Pyramid Head, the Pig, and Sadako can do? So, from now on, if you stalk a survivor for long enough until their aura is completely red and they are hooked at least once, you are able to Tombstone them base kit once you reach tier 3, which will completely deplete it once you mori them. This way, if you get a survivor that is playing in a poor way and constantly feeding stock points, you are incentivized to just straight up eliminate them from the match. So now, the person who gets stalked a lot gets punished more than a survivor who did nothing wrong. Yes, you can still stalk a bad survivor and do the exact same now by using tier 3 on other Unaware survivors, and yes, this can lead to tunneling, but tunneling is an inherent problem of the game and the red aura will take so long that you need to seriously play poorly in order to trigger it, or tunnel to the point you are going to lose the match as Myers. So why not just remove a survivor from the match instead and win easier? Now it would be unfun for a survivor to just get moried out of nowhere, since Myers could just stalk you from afar without you ever noticing. So let's bring back this audio cue that used to play when Myers was about to tear up, and this will play whenever you as a survivor are close to being fully stalked. Just two other fast things. Currently, if you are repairing a generator or you enter a locker, you can bypass the Tombstone add-on. So not only can you mori them like before, now with these changes you are also able to mori them on the ground, and if they dare enter a locker, Myers will receive a new Tombstone animation where they stab a survivor with their weapon, similar to the scene of Bob dying in the original Halloween movie. Imagine opening a locker as a survivor and finding your teammate pinned against the wall of the locker. I think this would be a fantastic detail. Finally, let's make that tier 3 duration matter. Not only do you get the benefits of before, you will also break pallets and resist stun a little bit more, like 10% maybe. Either that or make it 25%, but not stuck with perks, since I don't want Myers to have only one very good build. As an extra Easter egg, Michael will now break breakable walls by literally walking on them, which will be a reference to a scene in Halloween 2 where he breaks a glass door by walking on it, you know, just to add a little bit of spice. Before we end the changes, let's add one more change to prevent a potential problem that this new Myers can bring. You can already do this in the game, but with this change, it would be significantly easier. I am talking about using your power to guarantee a trade by activating tier 3 while proxy camping. Just to prevent it, anytime you are near a hooked survivor, you cannot activate your power close to them. Also, your stalking rate will decrease as well, similar to the Anticamp measures of Singularity. As for any points I didn't mention, they will stay the same. So, what did we achieve with this rework? First and foremost, Evil Within 1 is finally something that Myers can use to his advantage, making him a true stealth killer without the need of any add-ons or perks. Myers is the only stealth character that loses access to undetectable despite being a stealth killer, so this change makes sense gameplay wise. Then, his stalking mechanic is more thematic and fitting with the movies, and works in a similar way to Ghostface Stalk. Finally, his problematic add-on is now incorporated into Basekit in a way to punish survivors that play in a non-careful way against Myers, as well as adding extra touches to his animations just to reference the original movie closer. And I am going to be honest, the video is long enough and I am too lazy to make the add-ons because I would love to rework all of them. Obviously, the Tombstone add-ons would require a change and the add-on families will be condensed into one so we don't have any repeats. This includes the 2 jumpscare mirrors, as with tier 1 not being as bad, you no longer need them to be different, but that's already way too much work. Anyways, let me know what you think about these changes, and I truly believe that these changes would make Myers better to play. Maybe not an A tier, but at the very least, Myers would feel significantly better and more updated to the modernized standards of Dead by Daylight.